All right, howdy, Algebra 1. So hopefully you all checked to see that I did post an extra credit assignment. That extra credit assignment is due on Friday. It will be the only extra credit that you'll be able to get this 9 weeks. So make sure you do it. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week. I just want you all to write something short and sweet to one of your current teachers or a teacher that you've had before, telling them what you appreciate about them, something that you enjoyed in their class, and just why you're thankful for them. It doesn't have to be to me, just somebody that you've had in the past, or just one of the teachers that you appreciate. Those are some of the best things that I cherish, or little notes that I get from kids, when I'm having a rough day or something. So maybe talk about how you appreciate what they're doing during this online learning and things like that. All right, but anyways, we are chugging along. So we're going to start 9.6. You will not have any homework today, but we will be learning about the quadratic formula, and then Wednesday and Thursday we will have an assignment, so you need to be watching and ready. All right, so the quadratic formula is another way to solve a quadratic. So one way that we just learned how to solve quadratics is we factored, and then we set each factor equal to 0. And that's normally the most, way that people do it, because it's really quick to solve by factoring. If something is not factorable, so that means that you can't find two numbers that multiply to that AC term but add to the B, you can always use the quadratic formula. It's best to memorize it if you can. It makes the problems go a lot quicker. There is a song that you can use to help you memorize it. I'll sing it for you. I'm not a very good singer, so be ready. So the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So it's like to pop goes the weasel. This right here, b squared minus 4ac, this means 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Now, if b is a negative number, so like if b is negative 2, when you go to plug it in the quadratic formula, a negative b would be negative 2, which is positive 2. So you got to kind of watch out for that. Plus or minus. When you all were solving by factoring, you all factored and you set each factor equal to 0. You all got 2 factors. So you had 2 answers. This is where those 2 answers come into play. Plus or minus means that you're going to have 2 answers. So this would be negative b plus this and negative b minus this. And this number, we're going to start off pretty simple, where that number under the root is a perfect square. So when I say perfect square, I mean numbers that have been squared. So like the square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 64 is 8. So those are going to be the numbers that we're going to look at first. And as we go to practice this over the next couple weeks, they will get harder. They won't always be perfect squares. Okay. So you may want to jot this down. I will also attach a file to this e-learning day that has that quadratic formula on it, that if you want to use it, you can. All right. I lost my eraser, so we're going to erase this. Okay. All right, so the directions are going to be different, okay? Because now that we know 2 ways, some of your directions could say solve by factoring. Some of your directions will say solve by quadratic formula. And today we're just going to do quadratic formula. So solve by quadratic formula. All right, and I'm going to write it up here again so that we can see it and use it. And like I said, I don't expect you to know it to have it memorized today, but it would be useful because it'll make it go a lot quicker. All right, so the first one that we're going to look at is x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Now, these also have to be in standard form, so highest to lowest exponent, so x squared, x number. Now, you're probably thinking like, ABC, where is that coming from? It's the way that this is in standard form. If it's in standard form, then this is your A, this is your B, this is your C. Okay, so that's where I'm getting those numbers from. So this right here, this is a 1x squared, so my A is going to be 1. My b is going to be -2, because remember the sign in front's the sign that it keeps. And then my c is going to be -8. All right. So I can move this a little closer. A little strapped on room here. All right, so I'm going to start plugging it in. So the quadratic formula is negative and then b. So b is -2, so it'll be a -2 plus or minus the square root b squared. So b is -2, so -2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is -8, all over 2 times a, which is 1. All right, so -2 is a +2, because now we'll have to simplify this. Okay, so -2 is +2. Now, I don't care if you all use your calculator on this part right here. Okay, so on my calculator, and hopefully you all have one at home, I'm going to type just as I wrote it, parenthesis, -2, close parenthesis, squared, minus 4 times 1 times -8. And I got 36. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. I need to see all this work that I'm doing. All right, and then what is the square root of 36? The square root of 36 is 6. So this will be 2 plus or minus 6 divided by 2. And then you have to do the two answers. So I'm going to have to take this two ways. 2 plus 6 divided by 2 and 2 minus 6 divided by 2. So up here, this is 2 plus 6, so that's 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So one of my answers is 4. And this one, 2 minus 6, that's -4 divided by 2, which is -2. If I can fit that there. Make it a little smaller. So it's -4 divided by 2, which is -2. So my answers are 4 and -2. All right, we're going to do another one. Okay. So this will be our second one. So let's do x squared minus 4x minus 21 equals 0. All right, so these also do have to be equal to 0. I can't remember if I said that. They have to be equal to 0 before you can start factoring. So if there is something over there, you may have to subtract it or add it over. All right, so it's in standard form. So this is a is 1, b is -4, and c is -21. Okay? All right, so the quadratic formula, and I just look at it, and anytime that you have a test or a quiz or anything, that will be on there. When you take I-STEP next year, that will be on there. It's not something that you do have to memorize, but it just makes it go quicker if you know it. All right, so negative b. What's b? -4 plus or minus the square root, and then b squared. So b is -4, so -4 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is -21, all over 2 times a, which is 1. So I just followed the formula exactly as it is. All right, so a -4 makes that a +4. And then you can use your calculator again to type just the part that's under the root. Nothing else. Don't type the root, just the numbers under there. So parenthesis, calculator. So parenthesis, -4, close parenthesis, squared, minus 4 times 1 times -21. And I got 100. And 2 times 1 is 2. All right, and then the square root of 100 is 10. So that's going to be 4 plus or minus 10 over 2. And then you can take it two ways. 4 plus 10 divided by 2. 4 minus 10 divided by 2. And that's where your two numbers come from, your two answers. So 4 plus 10, that's 14 divided by 2, which is 7. So there's one of my answers. It's 7. 4 minus 10, that's negative 6 divided by 2. So my other answer is negative 3. And I'm done. All right, well, we're going to do more. So like I said, not all of them are going to be that nice. Like, a lot of them don't come out to be a super nice number. And that's okay. But like I said, today, they are all going to come out nice. All right. So let's do another one. I'm going to try to do about maybe 4, 5 of them. All right. So let's do number 3 here. So let's do 4x squared minus 21x equals 18. All right, so right off the bat, you should notice this is a quadratic. In order to solve a quadratic, it has to be equal to 0. This one is equal to 18, so we're going to subtract it over. So that's going to be 4x squared minus 21x minus 18 equals 0. All right, so that means my A is 4, my B is negative 21, and my C is negative 18. All right, so the quadratic formula is negative B. What's B? Negative 21 plus or minus the square root of B squared. So B is negative 21 squared minus 4 times A, which is 4, times C, which is negative 18, all over 2 times A, which is 4. All right, so we're going to clean it up. So a negative 21 is positive 21. And then I'm going to use my calculator again. I'm going to use it just to type in that part only. So parenthesis, negative 21 close parenthesis squared minus 4 times negative 18. And I got 729 over 2 times 4 is 8. All right, square root 729. So the square root button, 729, enter. So I got 21 plus or minus, the square root of 729 was 27 over 8. And then I take it 2 ways. 21 plus 27 divided by 8. And move some more room here. 21 minus 27 divided by 8. Now remember, I'm okay with decimal answers as long as they're not repeating. If it's a repeating number, it has to be as a fraction answer. So 21 plus 27 is 48. And 48 divided by 8 is 6. 21 minus 27 is negative 6 divided by 8. And negative 6 divided by 8 is negative 0.75, or I would accept negative 3/4. All right, let's do another. Let's see if I can find one that I like. All right. Hopefully you all had a good weekend. Got some relaxing time. It's been nice. It was nice today outside. I really enjoyed that today. Okay, I found what I want to do. All right. So this one is equal to 0, luckily, so we don't have to move anything over. So quadratic formula is equal to 0, and then I have to find my ABC. If it's in standard form, there's my ABC. So my A is 3. My B, there's no number there, so it's a 1. So my B is 1. And my C is negative 14. All right. So the quadratic formula is negative, and then B is positive 1, plus or minus the square root of B squared. So 1 squared minus 4 times A is 3, times C, which is negative 14, all over 2A, which is 3. All right, so negative 1, and that one stayed negative. All the other 3 that we did, it became positive because it was a negative number, so it was a negative, which made it positive. This is a negative positive 1, so it stays negative 1. All right, plus or minus the square root, handy dandy calculator time to type in exactly what's written there. So parenthesis 1 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 14, and I got 169. 2 times 3 is 6. And the square root of 169 is 13. So negative 1 plus or minus 13 divided by 6. Then I take it two ways. Negative 1 plus 13 divided by 6, and negative 1 minus 13 divided by 6. So negative 1 plus 13, that's 12 divided by 6, which is 2. And negative 1 minus 13, that's negative 14 divided by 6. If you use your calculator, negative 14 divided by 6 is a repeating number. So I'm just going to reduce it by 2. So that'll be negative 7 over 3. You could make it negative 2 1/3. I would count that too. All right, we got time for one more real quick. And hopefully you all are watching these videos. This is another skill that when you go to Algebra 2, we're going to use this right off the bat as well. So I know you all are having trouble understanding why this is so important, but you have to take Algebra 2, and this is just going to make your life a lot easier when you have to go and take it. All right, so let's do this one. All right, so looking at it, it's not equal to 0, so I'm going to have to add over this 10. And I am solving using the quadratic formula still. All right, so my A is 1, my B is 11, and my C is 10. And you don't have to write those. It just helps us make sure we see positive and negative numbers. All right, so the quadratic formula is negative B is 11 plus or minus a square root B squared. So 11 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 10, all over 2 times A, which is 1. So that's negative 11 plus or minus, and then calculator time. So 11 squared minus 4 times A times C, so 4 times 1 times 10, and I got 81 over 2. So hopefully you all are practicing with your calculator, making sure you can get those right numbers. Square root of 81 is 9. And then two ways. Negative 11 plus 9 divided by 2. Negative 11 minus 9 divided by 2. So that's negative 2 divided by 2, which is negative 1. That's negative 20 divided by 2, which is negative 10. So negative 1 and negative 10. All right, so after you watch this video, go ahead and go to the assignment question, which is the discussion question. I want to know what you understood, what you didn't understand, what you want to see more of tomorrow. All right, adios.